There's a bit of a kicker. I think the clutch is dead. More specifically, I think the clutch release bearing is dead. So I think there's only one solution for it. Take the gearbox out and replace the clutch. Drive shafts off, lower arms off, radiator out, intercooler out, clutch cable disconnected, track rod end off, ball joints off, drive shaft out, all the dog bone and downpipe off. We are now ready to drop that subframe. As much as the weather looks really nice, I think tomorrow is going to be a different story. Fingers crossed. Good morning, sports fans. Good morning, Renault fans. Good morning, Rotbox fans. So in the last video, you would have seen that despite getting everything back together, getting the steering rack bushes in, getting the dog bone mount bush in, getting all the intercooler set up with the radiator, all that type of stuff, and driving it successfully, might I add, semi-successfully, the old girl didn't want to give me any gears, which is very frustrating. So I'm currently I went straight from the last clip that you'd seen of the last video. I went straight from there, put the car on my nice brand new drive. Very nice. Put the car on my nice brand new drive, up on axle stands, and it is currently most of the way stripped down to fit a new clutch. I think the clutch is actually alright. I think it's more about the release bearing. And I'm hoping I don't need a new clutch fork, which I can buy, it just means more time. As we stand at the minute, it's just over a week until I drive it 3,000 miles to Croatia. And there's no front end, it's up on axle stand, there's no drive shafts in it, there's no lower arms on it. It's not going anywhere. So, I already stripped a lot of it down because I came back and just did it in the evening. I didn't film that because I was just filming all of the stuff that I'd already shown you put together. So at the minute, it is currently on axle stands, passenger side lower arm is out, both drive shafts are out, both track rods are disconnected, all the gearbox fluid is out, and I now need to drop the subframe to get the gearbox out. So I'm going to loosen all the gearbox bolts, all the bell housing bolts, take the starter motor off that I've just bloody put on, but luckily that's only 3 bolts now. Take the starter motor off, undo all the bell housing bolts, drop the subframe down, support the engine, drop the gearbox mount down, which will hopefully then lower everything down nicely to get the gearbox and clutch out. Luckily, in about May last year, I found a deal on Euro Car Parts for a clutch kit. So this has been on the shelf for over a year, 18 months nearly. So I'm gonna open it. It is literally brand new. It's all in cellophane and everything. So let's open it. It is a 3-piece clutch kit, which is what I need because it's that the release bearing that I need, which I think has failed. There's my little pressure plate. There's my tiny little release bearing. Tiny thing, look. A nice little packet of grease for that. And then there's my pressure plate. All nice and new. Yes, I know you're thinking it's Transmech, but Christ, this car hasn't got much life left in it. I'm not going to be putting LUK parts on a car that hasn't got much life left in it, right? So I'm going to try and film as best I can, but a lot of it is done underneath the car. So let's see how it goes. But I'm hoping today is Saturday. We leave a week Wednesday for the trip for Croatia. I'm going to try and get the gearbox out, clutch in, and refitted today. Wish me luck. So, gearbox bounce you got is my clutch fork. Don't know if that's supposed to have that much play, but there we go. Gearbox mount, gearbox bolt, starter motor bolt down there, another starter motor bolt around there, and then the rest of them are on the underside. So I'm just going to slacken these off and get underneath and do the rest.
making progress, at least. So what have we done so far? Gear linkage is separated. All the bellows and bolts are done. I've had to grind off a couple of fasteners because they just wouldn't come out. And I'm on to my next challenge, which is this towing eye is linked into the subframe. You see those two bolts through there? So I need to, that's tied into the subframe and the crash bar. I cannot get those 213s undone because they are rounded and very soft. So my plan is to just cut off those bolts and then cut away the towing eye, not run with the towing eye. Because I got two lower arms for towing, so what do I need a towing eye for? I'm going to have another 10-15 minutes trying to get those bolts undone with what I've got. Otherwise, Dr. Angel Glendale is coming out. Okay, so I did have to get a visit from Dr. Angel Glendale. And this is now purely for demonstration purposes because I had to cut it out. Couldn't get the bolts undone. I was going to get in the way of the subframe drop in. I wasn't using that radiator support anyway. So now the subframe can drop nicely. And there's the remnants of the towing eye support. So note to self, don't tow it by the jack and eye. Make a note. Good, captive net, that's what we want. Excellent design. Yes, what we will do is we will put the nut inside the chassis, so when it is rusted, nobody can fucking undo it, and they will be sat there like lemons. I've actually got a spanner in on the nut behind here. There's a little access hole for it. Et voila. How the fuck am I gonna get that back in? Not a jar of glue, mate. Right, so that should now drop down. But there's the gearbox. Starting to get a little bit more room. It doesn't have to come down all that much, really. So, might see what I can do. Right, where are we? We are nearly about to get the box out. All the bellows and bolts are undone. The gearbox mount out is this side. The subframe is dropped down far enough-ish, I think. And as you can see, she's kind of loose in there. This is where I usually find out that I've missed a bolt, but it looks pretty safe. So I'm gonna get an extra pair of hands with Craig and hopefully get the box out. It's a boy. Well, gearbox is out. Whether it goes back in again is yet to be determined. Oh man. So the reason I'm replacing this is I thought that this release bearing had killed itself, but it actually feels fine. I think this, whatever this ball is definitely worn down, but yeah, that release bearing actually feels okay, to be fair. We'll get the clutch out and take a look at that. Right, well, we're already dealing with, let me just find it, that bolt there, which is decided
It's the very last bolt I'm trying to undo. Decided no one wants to identify as a 6mm Allen socket anymore. He wants to identify as a round one. So I'm gonna have to figure something out here.
Right, clutch plate off. We had to use a bit of a Irwin retract extractor on one of them. But I think I found, remember I mentioned that tingling? Something's jingling at the bottom.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
Wow. Oh. Wow, that sounded like it. So that looks like it, doesn't it?
Looks like it might have been trapped in between the friction material and this maybe or something.
Yeah, and there's
There's a screw on there though, isn't it?
missing there.
Oh yeah, look.
Yeah, so it's obviously been...
In the mill.
Which is annoying because there's quite a lot of friction material left on that clutch. Made in France, that's why. That's why.
It's not stood the test of time, is it?
No. Right, then now what I'm looking forward to, Craig, is getting my new clutch out and realising it's not the right one.
Well, if you did, at least you could put it back in without the springs, and I reckon it would make a difference.
Right, we should be a bit rattly.
If that, I don't think you do. I don't reckon you would.
Oh, it's a bit...
As long as another one don't come out, zip
Yeah.
tie them in place.
Is it playing?
That's
Oh, that
broken,
one
look.
snapped as well. Like. Yeah. So just... Maybe it's just old. I don't know how old it is.
The clutch kicking up the Alps.
I reckon
last
it's
year.
got to be at least 10 years old, that clutch has.
I reckon up the Alps didn't do any favours last
Yeah.
year, just ramming down gears.
Right, let's check the clutch that I've got then. Haynes manuals come in handy.
Hold the transmit.
That's the same. I got this out earlier. That looks the same. I've got the little things there. Perfect. A little thing of grease. So that looks spot on.
Same diameter.
All the bolt holes line up. Lovely.
That's not the right side for that. That's the right side for that, is it?
Has that one got like a little knob in there, like, cause that's... Yeah, but yeah, I know. No knob in. Ah,
Yeah.
2 weights there.
That's not it though, is it?
That's proper well in there, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Looks alright.
seems to line up.
Hey!
Made in China.
Is it?
No,
Is it made in France?
doesn't say anything on it actually. Same.
Alright, let's smash in the car then. Just need to...
Doesn't say on it gearbox side, clutch side.
Is this one? No. Maybe I should have paid attention to that when we took the... When we took the
Well, I
clutch
think
out.
it only go one way actually because that wouldn't go in there. That'll foul the bolts. That'll foul the bolts that way.
Oh yeah, so it's got to go in one way.
So that would hit the bolts on there, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna have to go that way. Which is probably why that's got such a big centre on it. Fits you in there, look.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a pretty face, you.
No, I got some ideas sometimes. You won't know.
Right, so you gotta...
Yeah.
What do I do about this? Because I don't think this
I don't
is...
think that's your problem. I think it's wave. I don't think it's your problem.
You think my issue's on the clutch pedal?
Yeah. That's your issue. That was probably stuck in between these.
Maybe stopping it from disengaging
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
Which is why it was intermittent, because
Yeah.
they were probably getting
And why
stuck
make-
sometimes.
It made a hell of a noise as well when that was out spinning.
Oh yeah, at one point it was proper spinning, wasn't it?
So I reckon that was that noise, isn't it? I don't think you. I think you'd be right. Famous last words, but I think you'd be right.
But this... Yeah, it'll be fine with it. I can adjust that with a cable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Slam the box back in now.
Right, sit rep. We had the gearbox back in and it had a snag. We tested the clutch cable on it and it was getting about sort of 15 mil travel, which is just not enough. So the gearbox is currently hanging back out and we've got a bit of a problem now. I don't think it's the clutch or the friction plate. I think it's more the... I don't think it's even the clutch fork. I think it's the nylon ball that acts as the fulcrum. Fulcrum, it's a nice word. For the clutch fork. So if I can find my clutch fork, there it is. So we've got clutch fork. The release bearing goes on this side. And then that little nub in there fits over a fulcrum, which is a nylon ball. And then this side is where the clutch cable goes. And let me just show you. So gearbox is just currently hanging in the engine bay. But if you imagine your clutch fork there, yeah, clutch fork there, with your slave cylinder going up, sorry, slave cylinder, your release bearing going up and down, and your clutch cable there, pulling it. So the clutch cable pulls, when you pull it, it kind of rests on the fulcrum and it pushes the release bearing up and gives you a gear. So the thing that makes that work is this nylon ball here. Now, if you can see, it's very, very worn to the extent where, whilst giving you a view, it's actually spinning on top. That's the metal ball that is supposed to hold the nylon ball. So I think that's my issue. Or one of my issues. Either way, the gearbox had to come out. And there we go. I've just taken that out of there. And I've just found online what it should look like. And as you can see from these screenshots that I'm going to put up, it looks very, very worn, doesn't it? So I'm going to order a new one. Hopefully that does the trick. Otherwise, I wonder if I could just put a washer on that and space it out. It's interesting. Let's try that. So that's what part I think I'm going to need. So I am going to pack up, have a bath, have some beers, do some research. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Well, I'm currently sat here with 3 days before I leave for Croatia. And this is how the 19 is currently looking. For those of you like me who might have been a little bit optimistic around getting it ready for the trip, and the trip is a 3,000-mile road trip to Croatia and back through France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Slovenia again, Italy again, Austria, Germany, Liechtenstein, Belgium home, France home. That 3,000-mile trip. For those of you who are optimistic like me, the time has come to call it a day. It's just that I think it's not that the fact that the car is dead, right? It's just that with 3 days to go, I still haven't got the gearbox back in the car. I can't remember much of this I filmed, so I'll go through it, right? Got the car up in axle stands, got the gearbox out. You've seen all that. Got the new clutch back in, but we still couldn't get the clutch pedal to feel the way that it needed to feel. The fulcrum that I need, I can buy, but it'll take days to it'll take a couple of days to turn up. I could have ordered that a couple of days ago. I've been searching to see if I can find anything local. I haven't been able to do that. It's more about it's not about the fact that I can get the car up and running. It's more about getting the car up and running and trusting it to drive 3,000 miles around Europe. If this was a UK road trip, I'd probably do it because I can get recovered for free because I've got AA cover. There's no sane person on earth that will either A, offer European breakdown cover for this, or B, if they did offer it, pay the price that they would no doubt ask for it, right? Because it's going to be hundreds of pounds. And I'm not prepared to do that. And I'm also not prepared to put any more money. I'm a little bit against putting a load more money into this because it needs a full restoration, and that's not something that I'm going to do. It needs, you know, full sills cutting out and rewelding in, full rear arches cutting out and welding back in. Getting the gearbox out, I had to use an angle grinder more than I did a socket and spanner set. You know, it needs a new subframe, really. There's so many different hangers and brackets in the engine bay that, although they're holding things together, there's no chance of me taking them apart in one piece. So this isn't the end of the 19, but it is the end of the 19's journey on this particular European road trip. As gutting as that is to say out loud, it is really gutting, because I really wanted to take it. And I also haven't got enough time now to buy a car that I could then shake down and road test and take on a 3,000 mile road trip. You know, I'd love to say that I'm Auto Alex, or I'm Johnny Smith, or, you know, Mighty Car Mods, or any of those guys that could throw enough money at it and enough effort in it in the short period of time. And then if something goes wrong, be able to afford to recover it back. I just can't do that. Maybe one day, if you subscribe, maybe one day that's the type of decisions I can make. That's where we want to be, me and Craig, on this channel. But for the time being, I can't justify taking this. So it is currently staying put on axle stands with its guts hanging out, looking very sorry for itself. And then I've had to make a decision about what car to take on my road trip. And not being able to go to auction or go anywhere and buy a car that I think would be reliable enough to drive that trip, I've chosen to take my very kind of un-Rotboxy, but also kind of Rotboxy daily driver BMW 330D, which is currently all nice and cleaned up, looking like this. And I'll explain why. It is a little bit Rotboxy. It's got 207,000 miles on the clock, so it's not, you know, it's not a garage queen. She does the hard miles. It's powerful. It's fun. It's a little bit tweaked here or there, and I think it'll be a fun car on the Alps. Rear-wheel drive, about 280 horse. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. But nonetheless, it's going on the trip, and it'll be a cracking trip either way. You guys, you Real 19 fans, we're just going to have to stick around, subscribe, keep an eye on the channel, because there will be more videos on this. I will get it back on its wheels and driving, and we'll see how it goes from there. But for now, let's focus on the road trip and how much of a class time that we're going to have there. So subscribe, keep an eye on the channel, go buy some merch, help us out. Thanks for all the views. Thanks for all the love. Thanks for watching, everyone.